Hi, I'm Laurie Dobson. It's uh, it's the evening of it's just about to be June 17th. So I thought I would and I'm in my truck, um, about to go in the house. I've been out here because trying to give my mom some space in her house and some safety and some distance because it just is hard for people to feel vulnerable to this disease. And in this area where she lives, where I visited her, it's still raging around, um, and it's just hard for people to know where to draw the boundaries that are safe. So I'm honoring social distancing, and I'm going to be sleeping in the summer room tonight, and it's going to be working out. Eventually, we'll all find a new way to cope, but right now it's just we're all doing this thing, respecting other people's boundaries, and where everybody has a need to feel sane, and yet we're all feeling so deprived of the ability to be able to love each other freely without this constraint. And I think that because this is intersected with the horrible police brutality issue that has come to a boiling point, and people are just feeling the need to express their social freedom and not to be living in fear of the state, you know, the police state. That the sensitivity of that has become really acute, and I feel that I've been feeling this compulsion to speak about where I see uh, the problems and the issues around vulnerability, because I've seen it change. I've had a personal, I don't know what you call it, transformation about how I see uh, the difficulties of life as a Black person, a person of color, in this world, because I have not put myself in touch with it. I have distanced from it. So socially distancing, I've been emotionally distancing for most of my life, uh, around the issues of race and discrimination. And it's, I guess, a protective thing, but it's also a preference thing. I just haven't wanted to deal with the hardness of the ways that life has been for other people. It just seems somewhat unpleasant, I guess, was the reason. It doesn't sound honorable at all. And I condition that by saying I have done a lot to address social justice in my kids' schools, and then later in organizations and various causes and things. But nevertheless, I have, because of this movement lately, and how everything's come together, and family stuff, I just feel the sensitiveness of these issues, and how people are in such difficulty. I just feel stripped of all of my sensitizing methods, and I'm glad for that. I don't think it's a good thing to have those. I mean, they can help you cope and be calm and comfortable and all that, but while the world is in there's such travesty going on all the time. Even though Jesus said the poor will always be with us, the poor will always be with you. You have to accept a certain level of injustice. I don't know that that's what I'm supposed to do anymore. I'm not supposed to, I don't think, just accept that life is unfair for other people and that it's just okay. On the other hand, there's that story where the guy feels bad about the plight of others, so he tries to make himself better by donating all of his money, all of his talents, all of his life, and then he starts donating all of his organs till there's nothing left. There's that sort of self denial, which doesn't serve, because I think the ultimate end of all of this is just to discover the unifying theme, the thread that runs through all of this, whether you're feeling vulnerable or secure. I think it's harder for rich people, that it's, it's easier for a rich man a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to go to heaven, or I don't know, I can't remember that thing, but it's like, once you have a certain level of security, you stop caring about the difficulties of other people's lives to the same degree. I think and I really, having had a lot of, security that way and not having it in various places and times, I see that my concern about the welfare of others often fluctuates with the amount that I have. And it's not a good thing, but I think it's just a way people are. I think it's part of human nature to not want to be vulnerable, and then not to want to have to experience other people's vulnerability. But how else are we going to really feel our humanity? How else are we ever really going to understand the best way forward for our people and for the world? And how will we ever solve the world's problems if we don't come together unconditionally, understanding that it's got to be all or nothing? We have to be we've got to have that deep attachment, and that sense of James Baldwin talks about it, the sense of total commitment to the cause of justice and love and freedom for all. So those are concepts, but living them, being reminded of that, I think it's helpful to just call out dishonesty and call out racism and bigotry, especially in its softer forms, when it seems like it's posing as friendliness. Like, for example, today when I was at a hot dog stand and two people were talking, and they were just talking about how they thought it was such a shame that all these people were protesting and making it so difficult for the police, because apparently the police need to be able to put down riots and when people are I guess they were thinking that people were rioting and misbehaving and doing murderous things on a regular basis, and we need the police to keep order amongst this sort of band of heathens. It's kind of an antiquated idea of what, it's a bizarre kind of way to look at the need for police. But it's the kind of idea that's born out of people of privilege wanting to hold on to their privilege and not wanting to be honest about it. That's the reason they want to keep distance, and they want to keep people down and in turmoil in their lives, so that we can have an easier life. It's a really cruel way of believing in a status quo in the world that you want to keep. That sense of it's white imperialism. Is what it is, and it shouldn't take too much education to figure that out. But it does require self-honesty, and I don't think that's an easy concept when you're invested in a belief and in a way to get out of fear. And the fear really is inside people's minds, in their own hearts and their own minds. So I just, when these two men were talking, I just reminded one of them, I said, I think maybe you're coming out of a mindset from, because we're two older people, that maybe, you think that, it's more like the riots of previous days, and the kinds of violence that used to be around a lot. People were trying to raise consciousness in the 60s, 70s. And I said, but if you look now, you'll see many, many people are in jail because they've just thrown them in, mass incarceration. And it's a horrible way to treat people, just to throw them in jail and deny them their freedoms, and then pretend that we have a constitution. Well, it's still a form of slavery it's still a form of racism. And then these arrests, these violent acts are a modified form of lynching, or real killings are lynchings. They're just a different form. And if we don't take truth and act truthfully and take that into true account, we just lose all credibility. And the media has been complicit, all the political shenanigans, all the ways that the parties have been rigged and corrupted and perverted. If we just try to settle into a comfort zone and think it's okay, this person's okay, I'll hold my breath, and then I'll immediately change them because they're so much better than the other guy. I mean, unfortunately, it's a morbid thought, but that way requires that to understand that there's no solution, that you can choose a way, but then it doesn't matter which side you pick. The change has to come, and we can't stop it, and we have to do all we can to disrupt the mechanisms for keeping people in place in a unfree life, in a mean existence. And we have to allow ourselves the power, and to understand that we have the duty, the responsibility, and the power to make that happen, and to not settle for less. There are people that have spoken on this, heroic people, and there's plenty of ways to educate ourselves. And I think it's time to grab that and make sure we just keep going individually, and feel the responsibility very deeply in ourselves to make this world a different place altogether than what we've settled for up until now. Those are my thoughts tonight. Thanks for listening. So, love to you all.